welcome to Patriot Pets. My name is Lake Green, and today we are at the historic Craig House in Manalapan, New Jersey, the site of a British field hospital during the Battle of Monmouth. Let's check it out. Before we could talk about the architectural beauty and uniqueness of this structure, let's talk about the family that inhabited this building for most of its existence. And that would be the Craig family. The Craigs hailed from Scotland, and they settled in the colony of New Jersey from Scotland in 1685. The family, first generation, consisting of John Craig Sr., his wife Ursula, and their children James and Archibald, first lived in Perth Amboy, New Jersey for about 10 years. On June 11th, 1690, John acquired a 150-acre tract in what is today known as Freehold or Manalapan townships. He built a home in about 1710 and moved to the farm with his family. Where we are standing today is part of that 150-acre tract. In 1720, his son Archibald purchased a piece of property on the eastern border of the present-day Monmouth Battlefield State Park and built a home, and we stand right on the site of that home. In 1744, the property passed from Archibald to Samuel, and he constructed a 1.5-story Dutch framed home in 1746. Samuel himself died just a few years later, and then ownership reverted back to his father Archibald. But when Archibald died in 1751, his will left the property to Samuel's son, John Craig Jr. And at that time, John Craig Jr. was only 14 years old and unable to own the property, so it was rented to tenants, this farm, until he reached the age of 21 in 1758. The most important chapter of this home's history was during the Battle of Monmouth. The Craigs were patriots during that battle, loyal to the American cause, and John Jr. served in the New Jersey militia. He served in the New Jersey militia and fought with the New Jersey militia at the Battle of Monmouth, aiding General Washington's army. And so, when the British marched up the road on June 28, 1778, he was nowhere to be found. He was fighting with the state militia against them. But his wife and her children were living in this home, and knowing or fearing that the British would make it an epicenter of the battle and their operations, he decided to, his wife, Anne, to leave the silverware from the family valuables into a well on the property, and it was dumped in the well, and I think that well is right behind us in that cement marker on the ground. and she pretty much, dumped it down in the well so the British couldn't take it. British soldiers drank the well dry as the day was over 100 degrees and found the silver and took it. But after the battle, John Jr. returned to the home with his family and lived here until his death in 1824. And the family remained owners of the property through the years and generations until the 1940s, when it was sold to tenant farmers. And then in 1965, the state of New Jersey acquired the house, and it stands today as an important example of early New Jersey architecture and a pivotal site at the Battle of Monmouth, where men died within its walls, British soldiers who were wounded, and you can just really see around the landscape how this is a tranquil area today, but back then it was a scene of a lot of carnage. But this house stands emblematic of early New Jersey architecture and early New Jersey history. Thanks so much for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Patriot Paths. I'm Lake Green.